Star Wars Battlefront 2 is one of my all-time favorite games. Today we will take a detailed look at the beautiful visuals of the game. Even Star Wars Battlefront from 2015 was already ahead of its time graphically. Its successor, Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2017, raised the bar with new maps and even more detailed environments thanks to the advanced Frostbite engine. Battlefront 2 is built on the Frostbite engine, EA's in-house engine optimized over years for large dense battle scenes with many simultaneous effects. DICE aimed for a visual language that feels cinematic and authentic, while still being readable and performant at 60 frames per second. Close collaboration with Lucasfilm was a key factor. Direct access to props, reference material, and approval processes ensured that materials, surface viewers, props, and scales match the films. The material system in Battlefront 2 relies on physically based rendering. Surfaces are described through metal-non-metal separation, roughness, albedo, and normal maps, using a microfacet-based BRDF. GGX is the Frostbite standard. This guarantees consistent reactions to light, whether it's polished Naboo, anodized TIE fighter panels, or weathered castle pipes. Lighting is combined with image-based lighting, making metallic surfaces convincingly reflect the surroundings. This system overhaul has been a Frostbite staple since the 2010s and forms the backbone for everything else. Beer scratches, scorch marks, and dirt in Battlefront 2 are heavily built through decals and additional mask layers. This allows micro-local variation. Laser impacts, smoke marks for example, without expensive geometry changes, important for readability and a lift in Star Wars aesthetic. As with Star Wars Battlefront, DICE relied heavily on photogrammetry, creating high-detail 3D assets from photo series of real-world objects. The pipeline, systematic photo capture, dense point cloud, high poly mesh, retopo, baking detail maps. EA or Frostbite documented this process precisely for Battlefront 2015, the same approach carried into Battlefront 2, authenticity from real props then technical refinement for performance. A nice anecdote from that time, DICE noted that Vader's helmet was difficult to scan due to its reflective surface and required manual post-processing, where fabric and leather parts, for example uniform or boots, worked excellent. Such stories show that photogrammetry is not automatic, artistic adjustments are needed to create film-accurate but playable assets. For the typical Star Wars feel, Battlefront 2 makes heavy use of volumetrics, for example fog, atmospheric scattering, physically based in Frostbite engine. DICE presented this as physically based and unified volumetric rendering, a unified medium model, Proxer grid, where light, shadows and scattering are consistently calculated, the basis for convincing light shafts in hangars, Dusty Haze on Tatooine, or rain for example Mist plus blue lights on Camino. Direct versus indirect lighting. Frostbite combines pre-computed global illumination for massive static geometry with dynamic light sources, blasters, explosions or tracers for example. This balanced performance and reactivity, essential for a 60 frames per second shooter. One of the central upgrades in the Battlefront 2 era was the HDR support in the engine. Frostbite explained how they replaced the old post-process including filmic tonic mapping with a more flexible LUT based workflow. The goal was create once, output many. For Battlefront 2 this meant sparkling highlights, for example sun reflections, blaster bloom with clean shadow detail without hard elements or team color breaking. Now about the cinematic layer of the game. Depth of field, dynamic exposure, bloom, lens flares and controlled motion blur are finely tuned to support the cinematic look without harming readability. The trick is material sensitive effects. Shiny droid armor can pop while matte stormtrooper armor stays creamy diffuse. DICE traditionally relies on temporal solutions, so TAA or TSR related, for stable edges and smooth sub-pixel detail. At the same time, Frostbite in the 4K era employed checkerboard rendering, CBR, to deliver high resolution output at reasonable performance cost. Dynamic resolution and temporal CBR reconstruction help stabilize GPU load during heavy effect scenes, for example explosions, particle storms, volumetric light shafts, without losing image stability. This explains why Battlefront 2 feels so visually dense while staying responsive. Blaster bolts, sparkles, muzzle flashes, smoke trails, debris and atmospheric battle dust layers are offered through Frostbite 4FX. At the same time, DICE was working on GPU-based emitter crafts to handle complex emission logic, collision and sorting efficiently. Exactly the type of effects that are almost always present in Battlefront 2. Trooper armor benefits from clearly separated dielectric, for example rubber or undersuit, and metallic parts fittings plus micro scratch roughness carrying HDR highlights. Glove simulations, capes, skirts are carefully damped to reduce TAA flicker. Frostbite has long featured translucency models for subservient effects, for example cheeks or ear edges, visible in cutscenes. Faces in Battlefront 2 aren't hyper-real exaggerated, but detailed enough to convey lighting moods. The lightsabers in Star Wars Battlefront 2 are technically emissive geometry with controlled bloom and halo. Crucially, their luminance doesn't break the scene. The HDR grading path helps keep blades bright without blowing out phases. DICE aim for cross-era visual coherence, so prequel, original trilogy, sequels, that required material-accurate assets, photogrammetry, archive access, strict color grading guidelines and disciplined scaling, props in film scale but still navigable. In terms of content variety, different biomes and eras demand robust authority standards. This is exactly where Frostbite's centralized tooling benefits large teams. Overall, the maps in Battlefront 2 are very diverse and portray the iconic Star Wars planets in great detail. Many shooters shimmer in fine detail. Battlefront 2 reduces this with temporal scrambling, careful MIP handling, and volumetric that soften harsh contrasts. Under heavy effect loads, dynamic resolution and checkboard reconstructions kick in, a Frostbite recommended path to achieve 4K goals with stable frame times. Battlefront 2 combines strong technology with crew-rated authenticity to deliver one of the most consistent Star Wars visual experiences of its time. It's not a single killer feature, but a sum of carefully balanced systems, from material presets to GPU effects and design decisions that harmonize cinematic feel with playability. In my opinion, the game remains one of the most beautiful titles on the market and presents the Star Wars galaxy in a wonderful, visually way. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is still one of my favorite games, not only for its gameplay, but especially for its graphics, which continue to impress me. I hope you enjoyed today's video on the visual presentation of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.